Hello everyone, CPAD here with another Exceed commentary. This is Jungy's Japes. Returns, week 5, the final week of Swiss. And we have two players that we've actually seen before. So on the blue side, the far side, the north side, I don't know why I've never specified that before, but on the top side we have IcePopAddict, who we casted in weeks 2 and 3, I believe. And on the red side here, we have Rose, who we casted in week 4. And you can check those videos out on the channel as well if you are curious about how those matches went. But yeah, we have another set here today. I believe both these players are 2 and 2. So again, not quite in playoff contention yet. Or not yet. Not quite in playoff contention anymore, excuse me. But yeah, I mean, one of these players will be going 3 and 2, positive record versus a 2 and 3. Anyways, the matchup here that we have here is Hockman versus Dan. I remember last time we saw Rose's Dan, she was not the degenerate Dan that we were looking at. She was maintaining like a relatively high hand size. No critical wild swing with empty hands. That kind of Dan. As Dan elects to strike here. Dan, of course, having the, what is it called? Dankukiaku Gadoken dive mix-up. Dankukiaku speed 6. Gadoken does not move forward. So as Hakumen, you can't play auto sweep. However, you can play like an auto, like Yanagi beats or trades with both sides. Hakumen, a character that has good trading options. Okay, so it is the Gadoken against the Renka. So the Renka will miss. IcePopAddict hoping that it was the options that moved Dan in, which there are two of them. There are Dankukiaku and Dive. Unfortunately, it was just the Gadoken. So Dan will be hit for, or excuse me, Hakumen will be hit for 4-1. That's 3. Renka will not be stunned, but will miss, obviously, because it's a range of 1 to 2. If we're looking at cards here, Yanagi actually, I believe, beats all sides of that mix-up. Or not beats, but trades. Trades favorably into Dankukiaku, trades kind of favorably into Gadoken, and goes equal with Dive. So it's not a terrible option there. As Rose actually opts to loop the Gadoken. That's an interesting one. I feel like Hakumen is now going to... Yep, okay. So, yeah, two options here for Hakumen. Either he walks in, or he boosts Fumajin, which states that attacks at range 4 or 5 do not hit. Actually, Rose actually putting the Dankukiaku engaged. That's an interesting one. Maybe thinking that she doesn't really need to advance forward with this card. I mean, it's a good card, but at the end of the day, you know, there are more impactful cards that Dan has and more ways to get in. And yeah, here's one way to get in. Rose elects to cross into range 1. So this Fumajin boost isn't really doing a whole lot anymore. But it did force the cross to come out, I guess. That Gadoken now in hand for Rose. Probably not going to see it as a combat option anytime soon. Especially because I think Hakumen and Dan will be sticking quite close to each other for the majority of this game. Hakumen kind of like he's got a lot of counter hit options. Okay, this is interesting. IcePopAddict not opting to go to use massive as a plus range boost, but rather just for the +2 armor, +2 guard. So this is part of that trading potential that we know that Hakumen has. He's just a beefy, tanky boy. Rose elects to prep in response. Pretty standard stuff so far. Notably, Hakumen is starting to build gauge. He's up to 3. So one more gauge and those ultras will come online, of which Shippu's definitely the one to look out for early game. 1 to 2 8 power or 3 to 6 4 power, but that 1 to 2 8 power really does hurt. And I've been seeing a lot of Hakumens use the ultras before they get to the 8 gauge to flip. So that's definitely something to look out for. I actually don't remember if IcePopAddict was one of those Hakumens that likes to do that. You can check the earlier videos and see. Again, I believe I casted him in week 2 and week 3. Week 2 was against CM Ishe. Week 3 was against Chucklifon, maybe. But yeah, you can go check him out. He was playing Hawkman in those matches as well. I believe his other characters are Shovel Shield and King Knight. He doesn't play King Knight though, which upsets me because King Knight's the best character in the game and he doesn't play it, or the second best character after Pookie probably. And Rose is bringing Dan, Polar Knight, and Jin. Last week we saw her play Jin and Dan. So, but I hope she brings out the Polar Knight because I love me some Season 4. You guys know that by now. I love me some Season 4. Hawkman initiates a strike from range 1. I actually missed that because that card kind of blended in with Jeanette there. We got 2 special card backs here. Okay, so it's the Cross into the sweep. Cross will not escape far enough. At least this Cross is relatively armored. So Hawkman will only take 4 instead of 6. Dan gets to take a card from Hawkman though. So pretty expensive combat, all things considered, for Hawkman. Drops 2 boosts, including that Ultra boost, the +1 range, +2 armor, +2 guard. And only ends up with like a bit of a trade. Also puts himself into the corner. At least has the 4 gauge, but at range 3 instead of range 2. So that Shippu, unless Dan decides to move in with one of his million move abilities, that Shippu's not going to be doing a whole lot for that 4th gauge. As Rose boosts is Psycho Glory. This is an interesting one because I usually see... I think Koryuka is such a good card, but I think Psycho Glory is not a bad boost at all. It's just your attacks are critical, and if you're not stunned, you can sustain the boost. So remember, Dan does not have any critical abilities. If you look at here, like most of the Street Fighter casts have critical effects. Dan does not have any. However, whenever Dan wild swings, his critical ability allows him to gain +1 power and +1 speed on his wild swings. As IcePop, I think, just elected to prepare. So Dan, a little bit of interesting character, a little bit at the mercy of his deck. As Rose preps again, she doesn't... So this is the second game I've seen of Rose, and she doesn't like to empty her hand to ignore the gauge cost on the Ultras. Maybe preferring the Legendary Taunt style Dan. I mean, Legendary Taunt's a really good card, I think. But, yeah, she doesn't go low hand. She's not a degen like me. Well, actually, I don't really play Dan, but I feel like if I would play Dan, I'd be emptying my hand and trying to hit Shiso and Haukadoken as much as possible. Preferably Shiso, but no, Rose opting to look to a high hand strategy here. Hawkman now has 5 gauge, I believe. A bunch of normals in here as well, which is interesting. The one downside to Hawkman building all this gauge so quickly is that he leaks information. So in theory, he's weak to cards like Focus because of that. He gets to the bottom of his deck way faster than everyone else, or basically everyone else. Maybe there's 1 or 2 exceptions, but a bunch of normals in the gauge. So not leaking any focus threats or any not threatening to be red just yet. As Hawkman, I believe, is initiating strike. He played it like a Renea boost and then played it upside down, but no, we have a strike here. We have a picture of Kokonoe getting punched by Blue Hair Man. Don't know who that is. As Rose throws her combat card across the screen. Real drama here. It's the cross against Zantetsu. Ooh, so Cross will get out of there. Zantetsu will miss. Zantetsu was... That's a read and a half there. So Zantetsu hits from only range 1 to 2. He did not have the plus range boost up, wherever that is, on Yukikaze. So that's a read and a half there. On top of that, has to spend the gauge. Is forced to spend the gauge on the before ability. So yeah, really swinging for the fences here a little bit with the read. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out. As Dan can't hit at range 6. Notably, Hawkman can with the Ultra. You don't really get good value from the Ultra, but you can hit. As Dan now threatening an EX attack from hand. Almost assuredly dive Godoken. Dive or Godoken, basically. Almost assuredly Godoken, because I believe 1 is still in her hand. Gadoken being a 5-speed range 4 move, so Gurren, notably, Gurren works against regular Gadoken, does not work against EX. Yanagi still would work against EX Gadoken, because EX Gadoken only does 5 damage, and EX Gadoken is 5 attack, so something like a Yanagi would work here, but does not beat the dive. Sweep is not the option. Sweep doesn't seem correct there. I think IcePop betting that Rose somehow drew both copies of dive and opting for the sweep instead maybe just doesn't have the Yanagi in hand or any like reliable answer. Like he would need Yanagi or EX Gurren. Or, yeah, I mean, that's basically it. I don't think any of these other moves hit. So I guess he just didn't have the Yanagi in hand. As he crosses into range 1. This makes sense. Especially with Rose looping the Gadoken again. Second focus, I believe, now in the discard. Excuse me, in the gauge for Hakumen. As Rose opts to prep. Reminder, she still has the your attacks are critical boost in play because she was never actually stunned at any point. So yeah, Rose off to an early lead here against the Hakumen. Hakumen does have 6 gauge built up, so 2 more and he'll be able to start doing Hakumen things like Exceedi and playing Frivolous Ultras for fun. But yeah, down life so far. And Dan has pretty good resources too. He's 3 gauge, so he can even play Shiso or Haugadoken from hand. Although I don't expect to see Haugadoken from hand. Maybe Shiso happens at a different point in the game. Actually, no, Haugadoken's not a terrible option. But yeah, just because a lot of Hakumen's counter hit stuff. So this is going to be a critical wild swing from Rose in response to the strike. And it's critical assault against the Enma. So Enma will win the speed tie here. Enma will do 4 damage. Hakumen must spend the gauge first to close 1. That's another thing about Hakumen is that a lot of his combats have gauge expenditures. So Hakumen must spend the gauge to close 1, even though he's already at range 1, and then deals 4 damage to the criticaled assault from Dan. Dan's assault is now criticaled, so it was 6 speed, but still loses the speed tie there. And because Dan was stunned, Dan loses the Psycho Glory boost. As we say that, here comes the second Psycho Glory boost. So yeah, Rose really not liking Koryukin, I guess. Really preferring that Psycho Glory. Koryukin is a card that is really it's got more bark than bite. Is that the correct term? It's got more bite than bark. More bark than bite. Let me know which one's correct. I actually don't know. But yeah, I mean the card is super scary, but a lot of times it doesn't do like the full 7 that you expect it to, and you're kind of sad because you want it to do the full 7, like stun things, and it doesn't, and then it's another RNG based card, right? And in theory, you can manipulate it. You can manipulate the top of your deck, but if you don't, then it's a little RNG focused. As Hakumen boosts defend at range 1, flips that second Yuhikaze into gauge. So I wonder if Rose is gonna actually. So she had 1 critical attack so far. She had 1 critical wild swing. It was on defense against range 1 Hakumen. I wonder if she's gonna be offensively wild swinging with this boost in play. Because if she's not, then it feels like a little bit. Maybe it feels like a little bit of a waste to me. Maybe I'm not really seeing what the purpose of the boost is if you're not going to initiate with it a ton. I mean, +1 power, +1 speed's good on defense, obviously, but it's really good on offense. As Rose strikes from hand. Reminder: hand strikes do not get any benefit from being critical. So this is just a normal strike coming out from Rose into a defended Hakumen. Hakumen looks like he's going to defend with 1 card. It's the Yanagi against the legendary taunt. So Legendary Taunt is an ultra. It's a pretty unique ultra. Not many cards actually do this, but you can basically execute another attack from your hand, carrying out all the triggers. Like for example, one thing that Dan could do is like Dan could advance here and like play Spike and pop the Yanagi, right? That's like the most obvious solution to Yanagi in this case. This looks like Dan will advance 3, draws a card first. Notably, the card draw is optional because Dan has abilities where and here comes the Spike, which pops the Yanagi. We'll do 5 through the extra armor. Not that it matters, but the Spike should be underneath the Yanagi here. During your cleanup phase, your boost drop first, and then your combat attack if you do not hit. Notably, the legendary taunt does not go into gauge because it's not an attack that hit, but the Spike did hit, so the Spike will go to gauge. Rose, of course, not stunned, so she gets to maintain the Psychic Glory. Maybe she's going to Wild Swing here off the top. Yep, she goes for the Wild Swing, +1 power, +1 speed on this. It's the Assault into the Haugadoken. Haugadoken will not work against Assault because Assault will close in. And, oh no, it's a sweep. And so Rose will take 4, but then Hakumen will take 7 in response to the EX, not EX, but the +1 power, the empowered sweep. It drops the Shippu from hand. Oh no. Big drop there, although Hakumen only has 6 HP left. So really that Yukikaze is looking like the better ultra here. Maybe not yet. Maybe he has 1 Shippu in him still. Unfortunately, both Yukikazes are down. 1 Shippu's down, so only 1 Shippu left. As Hakumen exceeds. So when he exceeds, he shuffles discard pile into deck, and all these gauge costs become free. So that's where the good stuff is for Hakumen. Excuse me. As we have a free shuffle situation here, so Rose is gonna check the discard the discard of the Hakumen player. Really, this gauge is kind of garbage though. If you're looking at it, what's left in the gauge, like there's a Yukikaze, which is great, but there's a lot of normals in here, which I'm not really sure he's willing to like keep and spend, because like if he takes a normal into his hand and doesn't use it immediately, he's gonna get red and lose the game, right? So this is not the best looking 8 overdrive that Hakumen has. At least he does have the Yukikaze, like you said, so he won't die immediately. But yeah, this could look better. Just a little bit unfortunate on what cards were flipped over. There is that aspect of RNG to Hakumen, is what cards are actually flipped over from the deck to the gauge at the end of the turn. As Rose just opts to prepare, has a huge life lead in the corner, but still relatively okay, I think. And yeah, Hakumen gonna take back that Yukikaze, drops the Grasp. And so we'll just take a look at the overdrive real quick. So the overdrive is you discard a card from your overdrive to return another card from your overdrive to your hand. And of course the gauge costs for Hakumen are reduced to 0. He does not get the passive gauge build up here. But yeah. So it looks like Rose boosted Psychic. I was a little bit hesitant I wasn't really quite seeing what the purpose of the Psychic Glory was. It looks like she likes to boost Psychic Glory to make her defensive option or not defensive, but her, as Hakumen opting for reshuffle, so Akumetsu will be in play. Akumetsu, we can look at this. So opponents cannot move. Attacks at range 1 do not hit you. Seal this. So Rose has to get out of the corner lest she wishes to get hit by Akumetsu here. The only way to get out of Akumetsu, Akumetsu gets parried immediately. This makes sense to me. So the only way to get out of Akumetsu is if you have pre-strike or before triggers that push or pull. Dan does not have one of those, I believe. Yeah, and yeah, Dan only has abilities that move himself. He does not have abilities that moves the opponent. So that Akumetsu was looking pretty threatening. Rose immediately parrying it. I mean, just standard stuff. The overdrive will go off again for Hakumen as it's now his turn. And yeah, I mean, a bunch of normals in here. discards the cross to pick up Enma, looks like. Okay. Enma, not the best Hawkman card in my opinion, but I mean, it's free, I guess, and it won't get read, so there you go. IcePopAddict shuffling his hand. We love to see it. Whenever you pick up cards, you should always shuffle your hand, in my opinion. Or whenever you drop cards, just shuffle your hand. Just shuffle your hand all the time. You don't want to be leaking information like, oh, I'm playing my top deck here, or like even that seems kind of innocuous, but you're technically are leaking information there. And while it may seem, like I said, innocuous, that's not something. Why leak some information when you can leak none? I guess is what I'm trying to say here. As it is Hawkman's turn still, a reminder he did just pick up the Enma. Don't think he's going to be striking with the Enma at range 1 here against a Dan who's been wild swinging a bunch with the +1 power, +1 speed. It's a critical juncture for Hawkman, so I respect that he's taking his time here. As he elects to strike, okay. Yes, so Hawkman's like to strike a lot when they're on front side, so that way they get full value. As Rose drops the wild swing, throws it across the arena again. It's the Yukikaze against the leg taunt. Leg taunt can, in theory, be validated if Rose so chooses. So reminder for Yukikaze. Yukikaze is, when you're hit, you can add 6 power and close 8 on the opponent here. But no, Rose opting for the leg taunt will move 3 forward and draw a card, and then she will play dive over, and that Yukikaze can no longer hit. Wow. Really, really good wild swing there from Rose. And yeah, that Yukikaze cannot hit, obviously, because it's dive. And yeah, poor Hawkman now has lost the Yukikaze. He could have a second one in hand. It was shuffled back in, but Rose elects to strike from hand. If I had to guess, it's a fast slow mix-up, right? Hawkman just wild swings. The Yanagi's not going to do it. That is game 1 to Rose in pretty convincing fashion, honestly. I believe Hawkman just had some unfortunate reads early on where he played combat cards that weren't covering the mix-up fully, and he just got punished super hard for it. And then Den able to use those Psycho Glory wild swings on defense pretty well to have good responses to whatever Hawkman was throwing in. And of course that legendary taunt wild swing, just icing on the cake at the very end. So Rose takes game 1 with Dan. I believe it's the first Dan win I've seen in tournament. She probably won with Dan before, but it's the first one I've seen, so there you go. Rose, again, just to remind all of the viewers we have here, Rose, again, has Polar Knight and Jin left, as IcePopAddict has King Knight, Shovel Shield, King Knight, a character that I've never seen him use, so I don't think he's going to bring that out. So he's Shovel Shield and the Hawkman again. Rose looks like she's already picked her character. I hope it's Polar Knight, but I have a feeling it's Jin, just because we saw Jin last week from her. I hope it's Polar Knight. That Polar Knight's so cool, man. As are all the knights. Here's that time of the video where I plug in that I love Season 4. That's the best. We see Shovel Shield coming out from IcePop against the Polar Knight. Let's go. We got a Season 4 matchup on our hands. I am excited for this. Polar Knight is probably one of my favorite Season 4 characters. He just throws garbage all around the board and then hits you for large amounts of damage. I love it. So Polar Knight is a character that has these ice spikes that he can place with various abilities and such onto the board. And his hit effect is when the opponent is on an ice spike, you can remove that ice spike for +2 power, and if you are not stunned after your attack, you can place an ice spike down into into an unoccupied spot in the range. So yeah, he's a he's another one of those brawly boys. Doesn't have, I mean, has some good trading potential here with a couple of these cards. Snow Slash, another like that's a block plus, like super good kit here. I think with the +2 power, and on Exceed side it goes +3 power, and you get to place Ice Spike. I personally like Exceeding a lot with the character, just so I can reposition Ice Spikes where they need to be, and on top of that you get +3 power instead of +2 power against Shovel Shield. So Shovel Shield, a puppet character, the puppet character in season 4. So we have Shovel Knight here, who as an action can just like put Shield Knight on his spot or move Shield Knight in one spot. Shield Knight on this side, Shield Knight basically has the ability of on front side and on back side at 2 actually. So any attack that originates from, so if you're Shovel Knight and you're standing on Shield Knight, your advance and close your advance and close movement triggers move one spot further. Additionally, Shield Knight placement's important for cards like Buckler Blow and Shield Gong. We have a little bit of fast slow mix up here for Shield Knight, excuse me. And on top of that, we have Tandem Attack so Tandem Attack works only if the movement of only if Shovel either moves into or out of Shield Knight's position. And this super good card, Shield Boomerang. Every time I see a Shovel Shield, this is the scary card, right? It's a 2/4, 6/3, but look at that ability. Attacks at range 2, 3, or 4 do not hit you. As Shovel Shield opts for the turn 1 prep again. So we saw Hawkman prep turn 1 from IcePopAddict, and now we see the Shovel Shield prep turn 1. As Polar Knight is a brawler character, so crossing to range 1 makes complete sense to me. Another way to advance early with Polar Knight is by striking with Polar Plow, which allows you to it hits from anywhere. It's got trading potential. You can close in afterward as well. But Rose just selecting for the cross boost, which is totally fine. Looks like Shovel Shield prepping to strike here with 1 card. So Shovel is at range 1 from Polar Knight, so these fast slows could be a thing. No, it's just the Grasp into the well-read sweep from Rose. So Grasp will deal 3 damage to Polar Knight, and Shovel Shield just decided where to put Polar Knight. Okay, opts to put her in the corner, and that sweep will deal 6 damage back. Will yoink a card, and an Ice Spike will be placed on the board right behind Shovel Knight. The card yoinked was Assault, not the worst card to yoink, I think, there, if you're Shovel Shield. But yeah, good early read here from Rose, getting that first bar as well. I wonder if she's going to opt for early Exceed like I do, but these ultras are also just very strong, I think. As Rose spends 1 to move to range 1, she drops a Shovel Drop for that. So Shovel Drops is an Ignore Armor. It's Spike-like in theory because you have to advance 2 or 3 on it. Doesn't do a ton of damage, but allows you to place 2 Ice Spikes if you hit, right? So you get an Ice Spike in your spot, and you get an Ice Spike in the range of the attack as well. And on hit, you can also push or pull 1. So this Shovel Drop could do 5 damage potentially. You can also choose like whether you want to remove the Ice Spike or put him onto an Ice Spike and then remove it. So there's a lot of versatility with that card. But Rose just opts to discard it for movement. As Shovel Shield initiates again from range 1. I wouldn't be surprised to see a defensive Grasp here from Rose. It's actually the focus into the cross. Okay. So defensive Grasp would have worked, but nope. Shovel Shield, noping out of there. Backs up 3 spots with the cross, obviously, and deals 1 damage to the focus. Focus, even though it does not hit, still has the after of placing an Ice Spike down, and you get to draw a card as well. Focus will miss, however, so no gauge. Back to range 4 for Polar. I wonder if Rose is going to advance again. I mean, seems like a good time to do so, right? Kind of in threat of these attacks, the buckler blow and the shield gong, with shield close and shovel far away. Although movement this time would definitely be more expensive, and yeah, Rose just opting to prep, saying I don't have the resources to move in yet, but I will soon. Shovel Shield actually also kind of low, only has 4 cards. Notably, this does not work. And yeah, IcePop just opting to prep here. So this turn, I expect to see either like a Polar Plow come out, or a movement of some sort, and she draws the second cross, moves in with that, back to range 1. No threat of Shield Boomerang yet, with only 2 gauge for Shovel Shield thus far. Ice Spike's not in the... They're an optimal, like, grasp range, right? So you can, like, pull them back 1 or 2. But Shovel is on, like, the other side of the board. So, yeah, I mean, needs to be a grasp to put him back here, which is where Rose would prefer to have him, I'm assuming, just because of the Ice Spike placement. But... yeah, Shovel Shield has kind of crossed out into the other side of the board. I wonder if there's going to be a boost coming to put Ice Spikes. Nope, just the Overpower boost, plus 2 power strike. EX Grasp, I'm assuming. So this would be a billion power Grasp. Notably still loses to Focus, because Focus cannot pick Shovel up and put him on the Ice Spike for the plus 2 damage. Other options here would be not Shovel Drop. I don't think it's Polar Plow, personally. Could be Polar Plow in theory. Could be Shovel Slam. Shovel Slam is not a bad card there. As Grasp loses to that EX Grasp. Unfortunate. That's going to be an 8 power Grasp coming in. 4 from the EX Grasp, 2 from the Overpower boost. Which, by the way, this boost is now called Powerful Blow in Season 5. But it's called Overpowered Season 4, despite like Ken having an Overpower boost that's only plus 1 power. That's like a weird thing. But yeah, anyways, let's not get tripped up in that. That was an 8 damage EX Grasp coming in from Rose. Really, really big combat win. And yeah, we saw that one coming, I think. Looks like Shovel Shield wants to strike here. Maybe seeing Rose a little bit low on cards. At least the good thing about EX Grasp is that both the grasps are down. So you no longer have to worry about 6 damage grasps when Rose exceeds into the mid game until she reshuffles. So at least that's a plus there. EX Grasp may be a little bit superfluous. Just really wanting to make sure she wins the combat though, which seems fine to me. I mean, it seems fine just because Polar did have EX Buckler Blow up as an option. I don't know if he had I don't remember if he had EX Grasp up. As Polar initiates into the Wild Swing, that is so unfortunate for Rose. Rose, like, Charge Slash is a hard read card that only basically beats Focus and blocks super well, and Rose Wild Swings Focus. Yep, and it's a plus 1 power, ignore armor if you initiate the strike, so the Charge Slash will do 6. Looks like a rebuild coming out here from Rose. This kind of card is standard on a lot of Season 4 characters. Where they will have a reload type boost on an Ultra. So this one is draw 2 cards, and you can remove Ice Spikes from the arena to draw that many additional cards, and then add this to Gauge. I feel like you don't get that card engaged if you don't remove an Ice Spike. Okay. Yeah, so Rose actually did Yeah, Rose actually did remove an Ice Spike. So she did get to add this card to Gage. That's my bad. I just missed it. As Rose opts for the early Exceed, I love it. I'm a big fan of the early Exceed. And you just get to put Ice Spikes everywhere, regardless of whether the spots are occupied or unoccupied. And that extra +1 power, it adds up, man. It really adds up. So I'm a big fan of Rose Exceeding here. Ice Spikes everywhere along the center of the board. Either Shovel's gotta leave the center of the board or get hit, or risk getting hit for just massive cards. Looks like, yeah, Ice Pop will opt for the former. Will boost away into a little bit into the corner, but yeah, no longer in like the middle of the danger zone here, which is these middle spots that Polar Knight is controlling with the Ice Spikes. Notably, at range 3, we are looking at a card like even Shovel. Actually, no, Shovel Slam would not work, but looks like a parry coming out. Okay, I thought that was a reading. These the season 4 art is really nice. As the parry Shield Boomerang comes out, Shield Boomerang, a card that we identified earlier as just such a good card. This is also where the reload for Shovel Shield is located on Shovel of Hope, and that Shield Boomerang, such a shutdown option that I'm not surprised to see Rose parry it. Back to IcePopAddict here, down a little bit in life, does have 3 gauge to work with. A similar amount of cards, a little bit of a life deficit. Let's see if IcePopAddict can bring it back here. Okay, full defense is one way to do so. Attacks from opponents on the opposite side of Shield Knight do not hit you. So notably, you have to be standing on Shield Knight. Like something like Assault still works because you move onto Shield Knight. That's an interesting boost, actually. I don't see it played a whole lot, I feel like, but it forces Polar Knight to do something. The only problem with doing something is that Polar Knight was likely to do something that is fine against this anyway. Is the only downside to the boost. It's like a little bit of a wasted turn. But if Polar Knight wasn't planning on doing something, like move to range 1, for example, or Assault, and no, looks like the full defense actually draws the tech out from Rose. Interesting, very interesting. I would have, if anything, with Rose having a dive in hand, I would have expected a strike with that dive, if anything. Just to because so like the level 1 play against full defense would be something like Assault, but if you play dive, you beat the things that Assault beats or trades with, right? So maybe like a combat dive was like a combat option that I saw there, but no, Rose just opting to tech there, a little bit safer than striking with dive, obviously under curve at range 3, but yeah, that's a solution I saw. Rose obviously finding a different one. That's okay. Both work fine. Back to Ice Pop here. At range 3 against Polar Knights. Striking. With 1 card here. Range 3, your typical Assault Dive Spike mix-up is a thing. Tandem Attack also works, I believe. Shield Boomerang a thing, and it is the Tandem Attack. Okay, so Tandem Attack will do 7 damage to to Polar Knight, excuse me. Will obviously pop the Shovel Charge. Rose opting for the on-curve defensive option. Does not work out. And yeah, good combat win. Pretty, like, 7 damage ultras for 2 gauge is pretty cheap. Obviously, he has a little bit of that downside there if you have to move into Shield Knight's spot. Rose immediately initiating, seeing that Ice Spike underneath Shovel Knight though, so this is a scary one. At the very least, both copies of Grasp are down, as is 1 copy of Stomp. Looks like just a block into the Polar Plow. So this Polar Plow will do 8 damage after armor, or before armor, excuse me. And yeah, I mean that's basically it. Just an 8 power slower option from Rose here. Polar Knight gets those numbers up quite high. And then yeah, of course, Polar Plow can basically put an Ice Spike anywhere on the board. Rose opts to put it here, cannot put it here, where Shovel Knight is standing currently. Yeah, looks like Ice Pop will opt to take no damage, discards that Ultra from Gauge and a Spike from hand. Okay, and Ice Pop just opting to prep here. So back to Polar Knight. Polar Knight opts for defend boost, pretty standard stuff. +1 armor, +3 guard. Back to Ice Pop here. Preps again. Okay. Both these players feel like they need a little bit more juice in their hand to deal the amount of damage that they need to win the game. Stops for prep. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised to see either a second prep coming out from Rose or a combat. Yeah, it looks like Rose is opting to strike here, range 1, with the defend boost in play. Again, a lot of the fast stuff is down for Rose. Rose has 1 stomp left for speed 7 options. And not much else. So Ice Pop reads that and says, okay, I'm going to dive. Rose, however, opts for the mid speed. Wow. Actually, well done from Rose here, calling out the dive, calling out the fast options. So the hit effect will... So, yes. So let's take our time here to read this card. So on hit, you can remove an Ice Spike adjacent from Polar Knight. Adjacent from Polar Knight's opponent, excuse me. So she removed the Ice Spike from the Shield Knight spot to push her pull 1. And yeah, you can see why this 4 special actually, like, this would be really, really good if it was free, right? So you can see why this card costs 1. You can move the opponent onto Ice Spikes with this card. Insane, right? Did she do her after? Okay, she did. I feel like she didn't though, because she put an Ice Spike here. Okay. Okay, I would have assumed that she would have used her after to put an Ice Spike underneath Shovel Knight. So that's a little bit of a weird one to me. Shovel Drop will not work, luckily. Focus is faster, and Shovel Drop would also miss. Well, I mean, Shovel Drop will, like... Yeah. She cannot hit... But she still needs to advance 2 or 3. So a little bit of a whiff there on that wild swing for Rose. Unfortunate. Focus, good option there from Ice Pop. Hits for 3 after armor. I was expecting Rose to put an Ice Spike underneath Shovel Knight with this after, so that's why I asked. Clearly that was not her plan. She opted to put it behind here. Which also seems okay. Putting it here is kind of a super aggressive option, and Rose with that wild swing showed that she didn't really have a range 1 option she was comfortable playing. So yeah, the Ice Spike placement now in retrospect makes sense. A little bit of... So this looks like a slow action here. Ice Pop moving Shield Knight to here, but really this is threatening that Shield Boomerang, which will immediately get parried, and yeah, gets parried. So Rose being forced essentially to deal with that Shield Boomerang in some way, and she opts to parry it with her second block. So that +2 speed still on Polar Knight's side here. Let's see. That's the Shield Boomerang was the threat. Now the real threat is this +2 speed, and how Ice Pop's going to deal with it. Yeah, it's definitely a crucial part of the game with both players at sub 11 HP. Does the sub as a prefix definitely means less than, right? It's not less than or equal to. So you can't say sub 10 HP when you have 10 HP. I think that seems correct to me. That seems correct to me. So we'll say sub 11 HP, even though that sounds kind of silly to say compared to sub 10 HP. But yeah, critical juncture here. Okay. IcePop choosing to recall the Shield Knight to his spot. Now Shield Knight's at range 2. This is threatening... What is this threatening? I have no idea what this is threatening. A second rebuild coming out. Rose removing the Ice Spike to draw the extra card and add it to Gauge. So yeah, this is a full reload basically. Draw 3 cards, add this card to Gauge, and then you draw a 4th card for your end of turn. Rose now has Rose now has a full hand. The one downside is that there are 6 cards in hand and only 2 in deck. IcePop would sees this immediately and looks at that discard, maybe think of a reading. I know one focus was dropped fairly recently for Shovel Shield. I don't think both have. Maybe I should do that that thing where that overlay where I have the list of cards. Although that would look daunting. It's not pretty. It would not be pretty to look at, but it would be nice to see. I would definitely maybe I'll just do. Obviously the solution is to be better as Shovel nopes out of that. Goes all the way back to range 6. Reminder, Polar Plow still hits at range 6. Whereas nothing from Shield Knight hits. Polar Plow hits, right? Polar Plow, reminder, is a 1 to 7. Oh, both Polar Plows are down. Okay, good to remember. Remember, the first one was used for the overpower, and the second one was used as like a sweep, much later. So both Polar Plows are down. So yeah, the only card that would hit is with Icicle Drop. Icicle Drop cannot hit for 2 reasons. The first reason being no Ice Spike here. The second reason being both were used for rebuilds. So Polar will have to work his way in a little bit. Notably, Shovel Shield cannot hit either. So Shield needs to be in range 1 to hit Polar, unless there's a Shield Boomerang involved, but both Shield Boomerangs were parried. So this is purely like a stalling maneuver here from Shovel Shield. Stalling and not dying in one combat to a random Ice Spike boosted attack. Also, getting out of there means that you're not really in danger of getting hit by an Ice Spike here. Unless it's here into the Force Special. That's the only way I can see. And yeah, it looks like Rose spending a bunch of Force to move forward. That's going to be 4 Force, maybe 1 more to get to range 1. 5 Force, moves all the way over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Since 5 Force to move to range 1. Only 5 cards left in Rose's deck. As that +2 speed gets teched. That's pretty crucial. Although speed not nearly as important as range 1. It's just the fact that Rose had no fast options left. She just discarded her second Stomp. So she has no fast options left. As Shattering Stomp gets boosted. Shattering Stomp is a boost I love, personally. I think this is underused by Polar Knight players, as we see a hand of EX Shovel Slash, Shovel Slam, and Assault. Okay, so we have a slow option here. It's slow but like super powerful option here in Shovel Slash. We have the Shovel Slam, which has a little bit of guard, and then we have the unguarded Assault mid-speed. I mean, Assault's kind of a mid-speed here at range 1, I guess. That's not probably not the card we'll be seeing, but maybe. Yeah, I think I was watching some other Polar Knight, and I was thinking that he, she, or they, I don't remember who they were. I don't remember if I don't think this was a match that cast either. I was wishing that they would boost this card more, because their Ice Spike placement wasn't fantastic. It could have been better. And this is obviously this card is just to improve your Ice Spike placement, right? It's really useful, especially when opponents try to get away, like what happened with Shovel Heal boosting Assault. And yeah, this boost directly counters maneuvers like that. And yeah, I love this boost personally. It's not the most impressive combat card. I think drawing a card is nice. The push is okay, but the boost is great. as... Okay. Shovel boosting Quick Step. Crossing over. Maybe boosting... Okay, now it's going to hop the Shovel Knight over. So, card expensive, but IcePop has cards in hands to do so. To do this quick positioning change. And now boosting Inseparable. So while you occupy the same space as Shield Knight, plus 3 power, plus 3 armor, and opponents cannot move you. So this is great because cannot be moved. So this is a direct counter to Shovel Slime here. Apologies for violently zooming in. Well, there's really no need for me to do so. Yeah, this is a direct counter to Shovel Slime, which was the force special that wrecked IcePop last time around. So yeah, playing around that, I love to see it. The plus 3 armor, plus 3 power. Nothing to sneeze at. No way to tech it either for Rose. Rose changing cards that assault. Makes sense. Doesn't want to get red. That was the only normal in her hand. We'll draw 2. So just a reminder, her known cards are here. She should shuffle her hand. Her known cards are here. This is the EX Ultra. The one with the armor. I forget the name of it. Snow Slash. And this is the Force Special. Name of it. Also, I also forget it because, let's be honest, Polar Knight's cards, they all sound the same because it's all dealing with him like shoveling snow. Because the game is about Shovel Knights. I've actually never played Shovel Knight before. I wanted to play it years ago, but just one of those games I never got around to. As Polar Knight striking from range 1. This could be the... So the thing about Charge Slash is that Charge Slash actually... Oh no, Charge Slash actually does work here. So Charge Slash is the threat here against the EX Snow Slash. Could there be a mix-up in play, however? I mean, there's always a mix-up. Almost always a mix-up. Let's see if Rose actually goes for the Charge Slash or opts for one of these 2 cards that she just drew. A reminder, always shuffle your hand here. And we know that these leftmost cards are the EX Snow Slash, and this one is the Force Special. I can't stress enough. I stress it every video, yet these fools don't learn. Shuffle your hand. Rose opting for the Wild Swing. It is the Charge Slash against the block. A second Wild Swing just goes so poorly for Rose. That's gotta feel so bad. That's gotta feel really bad. Charge Slash just loses to a lot of Wild Swings there. And Rose Wild Swung twice and got hit twice. Okay. Rose in turn boosting 1 copy of her Snow Slash for block, and when you're hit, it basically adds a block effect. Except you can only do it for gauge. Because let's be honest, if this was for force, that'd be insane. But no, it is gauge only. This block and, but it's still very good. Rose down to 1 HP, so armor's important. And both Charge Slashes, while they did hit, are down. At the very least. And yeah, reminder, this Charge Slash did 9 damage, 5 from the card, 1 from the ability, and 3 from the boost. Rose down to 1 HP here. Yeah, getting hit with both Charge Slashes on Wild Swings is tough. It's tough. Because basically it only outright beats block and focus. Obviously, in theory, beats the Ultra, but you can always invalidate that, right? Oh, it actually beats Shovel Drop pretty cleanly too, I guess. So I guess Rose did have 6 cards that in her deck that lose to Charge Slash. So not as bad as I thought it was. Not as unlucky as I thought it was. As Shovel spends a bunch of force. I believe that is 4 force spent to retreat 4 to get out of there. Shovel now in the face of Polar, so threatening the Buckler Blow. Technically the Buckler Blow Shield Gong mix up, but threatening the Buckler Blow. Reminder, Rose does have the block end, so she doesn't die to Buckler Blow, but so she can generate up to 4 armor. But I have a feeling that Rose will want to walk in. The only reason she won't walk in that I can see is if she has Polar Plow in hand. But I don't think you strike with this because it doesn't. I don't think you can do that. Oh, maybe you can. Oh, well, she just okay. I thought she was gonna play like EX Polar Plow or something that I don't condone that without the Ice Spike there to make lethal. And no, Rose spends 2 force to move into range 3. So notably still under threat for the force specials from Shovel Shield. Reminder, they won't kill because of block and, but okay, Shovel Shield opting for the reshuffle here. Rose taking a look at the discard contents before the reshuffle should probably. I don't think. I mean, there were only 7 cards left. 2 in deck, 5 in, or excuse me, 5 in deck, 2 in hand. So it just takes a quick look at that. IcePop gets the reshuffle in, and we see a shattering stomp. Put that ice back in. Now Shovel's in big trouble. No force to get out of there. Can boost something. Is opting to strike here into this horribly scary mix-up. Reminder, Polar does only have 1 HP left. But Snow Block and is in play, so it is likely that Polar doesn't die unless this is like Spike or something. It's Dive. Dive beating this Shovel Slam. Well done here. And yeah, that is game because Dive does 5 damage and Rose can only generate 4 armor with Block and. So game 2 going to Shovel Shield. Well done here. Little bit of a. It looked rough early for Shovel Shield. I will say that it looked rough early, but yeah, IcePop able to turn it around, wins game 2 here. Reminder: Polar was what 1 to 2 combats away from winning that Force Special. I forget the name on it because they all sound the same. Shovel Slam was threatening lethal because that would do 8 damage. But yeah, IcePop takes it in style, I would say. Game 3 on the cards here for both these players. So we got a little bit of a close set here. Just a reminder, Rose has the Polar Knight that she just lost with, and Jin left. IcePopAddict has the King Knight, which I've never seen this guy bring out the King Knight, so I'd be surprised if he sees it here, although I will be so happy if the King Knight comes out. And the Hakumen again, which lost in game 1. So let's see what both these players go with. Game 3. Looks like Rose already ready. IcePop maybe taking his time picking his character. I want to see the King Knight, but man, you can't argue that Hakumen's a much better character than King Knight. Coupled with the fact that we've not seen IcePop pull out the King Knight. I don't know if he has in the games we haven't casted of his, but we haven't seen it yet, so I don't expect to see it. And yeah, here comes the Hakumen from IcePop against the Jin from Rose. Okay. So we have a Season 5 extravaganza matchup here. Jin, a character known for drawing cards into advantage chaining, I'd say. And Hakumen, obviously, we saw the Hakumen, discussed the Hakumen in game 1. Still the same character. But yeah, Jin, a character that I'm not used to playing as Jin, but I'm very used to fighting against Jin. But yeah, Jin, a character that has a lot of card draw. A little bit of an all-rounder here, like has an uppercut, has a dive like at speed 5, has a mid-speed here, has like kind of a fireball 2 to 5, and then has an armored move. So Jin really has a little bit of it all, right? He's got a very like well-balanced, well-rounded kit. He gets cards pretty easily. He's got a bunch of draw effects, so draw effects on the card, draw effect here, draw effect here, draw effects. Maybe that's it. I feel like there's one more. Draw effect here. So yeah, Jin has a lot of draw effects, a lot of ways to get cards. Really likes range 2. Jin does. So yeah, I expect both these players to be in each other's faces for the majority of the match. Yeah, let's see if Hakumen can brawl out the Jin. What's going on here? The reference generator malfunctioned. Oh, weird. She does have only 4 specials. Which specialist is she missing? She's missing Gurren. I'm just gonna have I'm just gonna spawn another Gurren for her. Yeah, I don't want to promote the players because that's not really like the tournament standard. But yeah, I just wanted to spawn the Gurren in. You don't want faulty references. That's weird how that Gurren wasn't. That's weird. That's really weird. Huh. Oh, the reference generator broke because there's an Akamatsu in deck? Yeah, that makes sense. Well, these decks, I feel like when you click them, they spawn with references, so I don't know why we're doing the old way of generating references, but whatever. We got a little XL-sized Hakumen card. Actually, you can see it. I think it's physically larger than the Jin card. Yeah, look at that. Hakumen's a big boy, although he's not massive yet. Show you. I like increasing the size on that card when you boost massive. But no, Hakumen's a big boy here. Has the card always been that large? Is this guy not playing with regulation size decks, or is the card always just this large? I don't know. Was that large in game 1? I actually can't remember. Or we can refer back to previous VODs even of this guy's Hakumen to see if the card was that large. Rose Mole getting 4, opting to go first. Hakumen will go second, Mole's 3. So this is game 3, final game of this pretty close set overall. Jin versus Hakumen. Jin, for range 4 options, he has quite a few. He has Dive, obviously. He has Ice Car, Crystal Strike, a Speed 5 Dive. Low damage and like loses to random things like Spike. And he has Ice Blade, which is a little mini fireball, allowing Jin to choose where he ends up at the end of the strike, which is always a bonus, and drawing a card as well. And looks like EX coming out from Jin. Could this be EX Ice Car, perhaps? Could even be EX Dive, making sense at speed 5. Reminder that Hakumen does have a card that hits at range 4 that is speed 5. He has his own speed 5 dive in Gurren. So EX Dive also would beat that out, although losing to the EX Gurren. You don't expect do you expect Jazz Hands, or if you expect Jazz Hands, do you also expect EX Gurren? I don't know where I was going with that. That was a thought that was probably better left in my head. Probably need a little more time on that. Looks like the focus against the Ice Blade, excuse me. So Ice Blade will do 3 damage after armor, and Jin will obviously opt to close only 1. That's that optional movement that we were talking about. Jin has a lot of that optional movement, and it works out in his favor here, as now that focus whiffs. Hakumen does get a card, no gauge, however, and Jin off to an early life lead. EX Ice Blade's an interesting one. EX Ice Blade obviously just doesn't lose to... Actually, no. EX Ice Blade also hits Gurren. Regular Ice Blade also hits Gurren, because Gurren cannot close. EX Ice Blade beats... What does it beat that regular Ice Blade doesn't? It beats Dive. So if Hakumen wanted to dive range 1, that EX Ice Blade beats it. So that's the reason why. Okay. That seems fine, I guess. Whatever. Hakumen opts to cross into range 1. Gets that first gauge in. It's a Yanagi. Looking at Jin's cards here. Jin does have a couple range 1 options. He has the Violent Ice, he has the Permafrost mid-speed, and he has the Dual Ice Strike slow armored move. I guess the difference between it's only 1 speed difference, but this is an unguarded mid-speed. That's basically there to specifically punish a card like Sweep, for example. But no, Jin just opting to prepare at range 1 here against the Hakumen. And yeah, look at the difference in the size. Look, Hakumen's such a big boy compared to little baby tiny Jin. Look at that. Apologies for the violent scrolling again. I know some of you guys don't like that. Hakumen opting to strike at range 1. Hakumen has a bunch of cards that hit at range 1. Like Zantetsu hits, Yanagi hits, Renka hits, I guess. Just the grasp into the sweep again. This is the second game in a row where this has happened. The grasp into the sweep. Really unfortunate for Hakumen here. Pulls the second cross as well. So we like to point out early when two copies of a card are pulled out. Cross not the most important card. Usually I feel like we see it on Hakumen to close a gap. Ooh, an early preemptive coming out here from Jin. So remember preemptive strike +2 speed, now strike. Rose opting to spend the force for a draw 2, and we have the classic assault dive spike mix up here at range 3 with the preemptive strike. So yeah, IcePop will have to guess this one correctly. And it's the Zantetsu, which unfortunately will not work because it's dive. So unfortunately, Zantetsu will also force Hakumen to spend 1 gauge, and the dive will hit for 5. Rose will draw 2 cards on top of that. Yeah, Rose off to an early lead with this Jin, just 2 mix-ups correct in a row, and suddenly Hakumen's looking at half health, or 3 mix-ups correct in a row, and Hakumen's looking at half health before he can even get his game set up, right? He's only got 2 gauge. And this is what we're talking about. Jin does have a little bit of an aggressive streak to him. He can play aggressively and sustain with drawing. And yeah, here's another way to draw. The boost on Permafrost, +4 guard, now draw 2. Look at this, super good prepare. As Hakumen just has to normal prepare. Doesn't get the same liberties of drawing that Jin does. But yeah, super good start here for Jin. Aggressive, like more aggressive than I think a lot of people give him credit for, because Jin can do this. Like, it's totally fine. Very sustainable for Jin. And he's able to rush down these characters. They might need a little bit of time to set up. Although part of it's just because Rose got 3 mix-ups in a row correct, but still. Rose now boosting +2 power on her strikes, so she has +2 power, +4 guard for this next strike. Hakumen boosting assault to move back to range 3. Okay, interesting. Move back to range 4. Okay. Sees that EX Ice Blades down, preferring that range 4. Drops a Gurren, though, into the gauge. One of this will be an immediate strike coming out from Jin. 1 copy of Dive is down. It's actually going to be the Pinpoint Strike. So Pinpoint Strike, we can just take a look at this. +1, now strike. On hit, +1 power, advance or retreat, 1 gain advantage. Just another way that Jin can kind of rush down the opponent. I'm assuming there's going to be a +2 draw attached to this as well. So this is going to be a +3 power, +4 guard. On hit, advance or retreat, 1 gain advantage, draw 2. After draw 2, I guess, technically. And I'm assuming it's going to be like an Ice Car coming out here from Jin. This Ice Car would do 6 damage, so still loses to sweep, for example. Dive, however, technically beats sweep. And with 1 Gurren down, maybe Rose plays second dive to pop the sweep. No, it is the Ice Car. Again, it's just the block from Hakumen. So yeah, Ice Car will push, and then Jin actually opts to push into the corner. This will be 6 damage total. Ice Car. And yeah, Rose can choose her hit effects. So this placement seems fine. 6 power coming out. Interestingly, Rose did not spend... Yeah, the Rose is fine here. So interesting, I'm surprised that Rose did not spend gauge to draw 2 there. I'm wondering what the reason was, because I feel like that Ice Car was going to hit no matter what. Maybe just values that third gauge for second. Whatever that card's called, Moonsong, is the only reason I can see it. Maybe he wants to keep that threat live. Although we are at range 1 now. Jin striking again. And yeah, looks like Rose wants to keep that threat alive, opting not to draw 2, even though Rose is at pretty low card hand size. It's probably going to be the... Okay, no. I was expecting the dual-eye strike just to get advantage, as Rose is now gone. Hopefully she will... She got Yukikaze out of the server. Is the joke that is always made there. But yeah, this will trade pretty favorably overall. So Sweep will do 6 damage to Hakumen. And Hakumen will have to spend 4 gauge to do 6 damage back. Hakumen will get range 2. However, reminder, Jin is totally okay with range 2. At least Hakumen's out of the corner. But a 6 for 6 trade when you're up 11 life is great for Jin. Yukikaze spent... I'm surprised the Yukikaze wasn't saved for like a situation where IcePopAddict was about to die, but I guess that was his only response. This was his only like good response. So yeah, Rose will deal 6 damage. First, we'll pull a card from Hakumen. Did she already pull? Did she just pull the Shippu? Oh, she didn't pull a card yet. Yeah, and Hakumen should be validating his Ultra first. So 1, 2. Expensive stuff for Hakumen. Exceeding looks so far away now. 3. And 1 more. 4. Yeah, look at that. Hakumen down to 1 gauge. Only 10 HP compared to Jin's 21 HP. Pulls the dive. Not the biggest deal in the world, but both players low on cards, which is why I'm shocked that Jin didn't opt to spend for After Draw 2 on either one of those last 2 strikes. Especially because that Ice card was like 100% guaranteed to hit. And it looked like she had like a set play, right? Of that Ice card into the sweep. Because she didn't draw anything. So, I mean, those cards were in her hand. So I'm a little bit shocked that there wasn't an After Draw 2 there. Because now Jin will probably have to spend a turn prepping instead of doing Jin things. But maybe there's a plan here. As Hakumen just opts to prep. Oh, and there is the plan. Okay, the plan is to exceed. Wow. Not really sure the exceed was needed, but that's one way to reload. Let's take a look at Jin's exceed. Jin's exceed is a hit on hit. The opponent must discard a card. So this is actually one way to close. So this is interesting. I don't see a lot of quote unquote control Jin, as Hakumen just opts to prepare again. But yeah, this is a very like control type effect, right? So this is why Rose did not opt for the draw 2, because she wanted to exceed. So on hit, the opponent must discard a card, right? So this is completely different from any other Jin ability, like forcing your opponent to discard cards. Hakumen actually just prepped, so it has a full hand, so that discard won't be too important. But yeah, and Jin gets to draw a whole bunch of cards during this overdrive, because every combat card he strikes with has an after draw 1, and on overdrive he draws 1. So Jin, this is one way to reload that I was not necessarily thinking of, but Rose opting to maybe close out the game with this exceed here. Yep, and Rose is going to strike here. Basically, you should expect to see a strike come out more or less every turn with Jin on overdrive side, but yeah, this succeed makes perfect sense to me. Hakumen looks like he's responding with an EX, so a little bit scary here. We have EX Spike. Calls out the focus. Wow, that is a spicy EX Spike. Good read from Hakumen. Really, really good read from Hakumen. Jin will take 6 damage, is stunned, so will not get to draw a card afterward, and of course did not hit. So Hakumen's no longer forced to discard a card. Wow, EX Spike there. I really did not expect an EX Spike there from Hakumen. Okay, Hakumen opting to prep again. Now has a decent amount of gauge, up to 6 gauge. Looked pretty bad for him before, but I mean, Hakumen's a character that obviously builds up gauge super quickly, but I mean that one combat alongside the relatively slow play from both sides has brought Hakumen back into this game. Hakumen now has 6 gauge, only down 5 life, as opposed to the 11 life he was down before. Just a huge combat win there. Overdrive will go off for Jin. That's number 2. Draw 1. Expect to see Rose striking again here as we see a little. It looks like Ice Pop now. It's his turn to disconnect. Although we saw that one coming. We saw that one coming because of the little symbol that I pointed to in the top right. It's not me because both these players aren't dropping. It's just their internets separately dropping. Interestingly enough. Yes, I expect to see Rose striking here again. Just trying to win mix up after mix up. Range 2, lot of good stuff here. Like Jin still has uppercuts. Both uppercuts available. Jin has the mid speed available. Jin has the super armored card available. Now with both spikes gone, that is looking pretty good. Also pushing Hakumen out of the way from responding. No gauge, but that's okay. I don't think Moonsong was in the cards here anyway. Especially Moonsong could have been a win option, but Rose opted to exceed instead. Hakumen now in theory back into the game. Can trade pretty heavily like a Shippu here. Like I think Hakumen can. It's risky, but Hakumen can forego exceeding here to play Shippu this combat. And I don't think it's a bad play. I think it's a fine, like acceptable play to play Shippu here. Even like EX Shippu actually not a threat because Shippu was in the discard for some reason. I don't remember what reason, but I remember seeing one Shippu in the discard. So EX Shippu no longer a threat, but I mean if Jin is unable to get out of that range 2, then that Shippu would do 8 damage, and it has 2 armor on top of it, so just an insane life swing. Would Hakumen have trouble closing out the game after that? Maybe. But Shippu is a step to victory for Hakumen here, I think. It's just depending on whether IcePopAddict is willing to spend it before he gets the 8 gauge or after. So how greedy is he trying to get with the Shippu? And he might not even have it. 7 cards in hand, 4 cards in deck. Might not even have the Shippu. As we expected, Rose striking immediately with Jin. We should be seeing a strike every turn. Yeah, let's see how Hakumen responds. A lot of different threats that Jin can represent. He can represent the fast, the mid speed, and the slow here. So Hakumen just has to call it correctly, basically. Or on the other hand, you could look at it and say Jin has to not get hit by Shippu. Oh, one thing I did kind of neglect to mention, one copy of Violent Knights was dropped to Pinpoint Strike earlier in the match. Yeah, this is pivotal combat here for both sides here. With both players at lowish health totals, below half. It's Yukikaze. Oh no! Yukikaze is faster. So it misses against the focus. That is a big miss. We were looking for that other Ultra. We were looking for Shippu to hit. But no, Yukikaze is the wrong one. That is so devastating for Hakumen. That is incredibly devastating for Hakumen. So just a reminder, Yukikaze is speed 2. Yeah, Yukikaze is speed 2. Faster than focus. Yukikaze goes first. Before, if you were hit, well, you weren't hit. So, guess what? It's totally fine. Nothing happens. That is just so unfortunate. We would have liked to see the other Ultra come out there from Hakumen, because the other Ultra would have stunned focus, right? Actually, no, the other Ultra would have traded with focus because there's only 1 speed. Excuse me. But I mean, it would hit back for 6. You'd take 2 and hit back for 6. That's the ultra we were looking for. Unfortunately, Ice Pop maybe didn't have it or just opted for this ultra instead. Both Yukikazes are down. Okay, and this is one way to get Yukikaze back, by reshuffling your deck. Reminder, one Yukikaze is stuck in the gauge. Yukikaze is such an important card because your life cannot be reduced below 1 during the strike. So Yukikaze is the way for Huckman. It's a way for Huckman to basically just, it's a get out of jail free card to not die at low health. But yeah, Huckman picks up the Yakumetsu here on reshuffle. Reshuffle one way to get Yukikaze back in the deck, but looks like it. First thing that should happen is overdrive. Yeah, the overdrive happens, draw 1, and then the preemptive coming out from Jin here. So a second +2 speed. I super like preemptive, and preemptive EX, very scary. Although not a whole lot of options on what it could be. We can take a look here. Vaughn's gone, Crystal's gone, From Permanent's gone, Ice Spike's gone. Could be Dual Ice Strike in theory. That's a little bit of a weird one to +2 speed, in my opinion. Could be like EX Assault. Seems fine here. It's a block against the EX Spike. Oh no. That is game. Yeah, I mean, just the mid-range Assault Dive Spike mix-up. And unfortunately, Ice Pop guesses wrong again. And that is game. Pretty convincing from Jin overall. All things considered, yeah, the top deck could not save. EX Spike, pretty good option against Hawkman, who has a lot of guarded slow things, and obviously with a +2 speed, it's a 6 speed spike. It's a no-brainer. Yeah, Rose taking that game pretty convincingly, and ends the set 2-1 in her favor. Rose now ends the tournament 3-2. Ice Pop ends his tournament 2-3. Unfortunately, like I said at the beginning, both these players will not be advancing to playoffs because you need a 4-1 record to enter playoffs. But yeah, congrats to Rose. GG's all around. Good games. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, feel free to drop a sub, hit the like, drop a comment, hit the bell, do all that good stuff. Check out the earlier videos if you so choose. But yeah, I appreciate your guys' support, and just want to thank you guys again for joining me on this adventure, and we'll see you for the next one. Bye bye, take care.